The Oklahoma Sooners, they took care of business in their 35-3 win over the Illinois State Redbirds. What were some of our biggest takeaways? And maybe we shouldn't be too concerned about what happened on Saturday night.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners post-game live edition of Locked On Sooners. Thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. He's Jay Smith of Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel on YouTube for more college football and Oklahoma Sooners coverage. I'm John Williams of Sooners Wire at USA Today Sports. You can also read my work covering the Sooners over there. And Jay, it's a 35-3 win. It's going to be one Oklahoma didn't cover the spread, but there was never really any question as to who was going to win this game, even when they started really sluggishly in the first couple drives.
Yeah, the game started off, like I said, sluggish. It was a little slow. Oklahoma was kind of feeling things out. You can tell that they were going with a standard vanilla playbook. They didn't want to give too much film to Michigan, especially because this is a new team. So they were filling things out. But then as the game progressed, you started to notice that John Mateer started to get favorite targets, in which it ended up being 3 receivers, which puts a smile on my face. Well, 2 receivers and a tight end. And then he just kept going. And I think that this score, they would have covered the spread if Kanik didn't have that fumble at the beginning of the game. Felt like that was like, butterflies in his belly as he was getting, going out there on the offensive side for the first time. But there's a lot of things to really dissect from this game. We'll have a really in-depth breakdown on Monday's show whenever we can go back, rewatch, make some more notes. But instant-wise, John Mateer is that dude. And I'm glad that we did what we were supposed to do in this game to win it. It kind of reminds me of somebody else, and I'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, John Mateer, once they settled in after that first drive, it seemed like that first drive he was just trying to get the ball out quick, just kind of establish a rhythm. He had that first throw to Deion Burks, the sprint out to the right, 4-yard throw and catch. And then on that third down, it was just like, hey, Jaren Kanik's right there. I'm going to get him the ball. We're just going to make this completion happen and then see what happens. But then after that second drive, he hit that big pass play to Kanik, and Kanik caught it, was on the run, and just got hit, and fumbled the ball. Like, when was the last time that he caught a ball in a live game?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Maybe he never has. I don't know, because he played Wildcat quarterback in high school. So he might not have ever had a reception in a live action football game. So understandably, like, as you said, maybe a little bit of nerves, a little bit of not sure exactly how to hold the ball after the catch in a live game, but he really bounced back. But for John Mateer, dude, the guy was slinging the ball. He had a lot of patience in the pocket. He was comfortable in the pocket. When things were starting to break down, he showed his escapability. I really, really liked what I saw from Mateer.
Same. Like, just the fact that the way we won the game, we just slowly grinded it out. We only gave up points because Mateer got a little greedy with the route to Deion Burks. But the thing was, and the broadcast said it, and I commend them for pointing that out. You could see that there was a defender ready to. That was basically a hospital ball initially.
Yeah.
If Mateer had thrown it the way he was the way that Burks was going, because there was a dude ready to level him, and so he tried to lead him back, but Burks was also kind of moving a little too fast, and so he had to try to contort his body, and then that led to it going behind him a little bit.
I think Burks might have rounded that off a little bit too much too. Like,
yeah, fair.
Mateer might have been expecting just a straight comeback route where he's hitting his spot and then coming straight back to the quarterback. Burks ran more of a curl where he's curling off that route a little bit more. There might have just been a miscommunication on what the route was supposed to be, and that happens. And when that happens, it can lead to turnovers. So
yeah,
I'm not too concerned about it.
Yeah, me either. And I know a lot of people are concerned in the comments. One of the things everybody's pointing out is, the offensive line. I got concerns about the offensive line. I don't know if y'all knew this, but we didn't have 4 offensive linemen playing in this game on purpose. We set Michael Fasusi. Sexton got hurt. within the first couple of possessions of the game. You didn't play Heath Ozeta because he was dealing with a little bit of a shoulder stinger. And then Derek Simmons, who you were expecting to be your starting right tackle, he didn't play in this game. So you have 4 guys that didn't play. And so Bill Bedenbaugh was just playing around with the offensive line to figure out what he wanted to do. But I know that this is everybody's worried about that component of it, but they didn't play them because they plan on playing them against Michigan. It's you want to have your biggest and beefiest guys against a defense like Michigan's, who's I think they've given up 17 points right now to New Mexico. That you want to make sure that you're beefed up against them as a team. I'm sorry, 10 points against New Mexico. I'd expect to see Fasusi probably out there at left tackle to start. I expect to see an EPL/Ozeta rotation there. Troy Everett. Fogier got a lot of run. He got a lot of snaps.
Yeah.
Kind of struggled a couple of times. Missed an assignment when he was supposed to make a block, which led to Mateer getting sacked. But it's okay. It happens. Young guys, they got to learn sometime in live snaps. And then at right tackle, you saw a lot of Logan Howling. You saw some McClinko, a mixture. So you got to see a bunch of different offensive linemen, a lot more configurations again, but it was one of those, they were getting people together to get them the opportunity, especially the true freshmen and the new guys, to learn what's going on.
Yeah, I think offensive line is going to be one of those things that's talked about a lot this week. It's been talked about for 9 months, all offseason. It's been one of those things that we've wanted to see improve. I think everybody was hoping that we'd see improvement week 1. And I get, yes, they didn't have several of the guys that are going to be part of their 2 deep. At the same time, you have power 4 offensive linemen playing against an FCS defense. They should have been a little bit more productive. Now, when Torrey Blaylock was in the game, they were very productive. When he started taking over the running back carries late in the first half and then into the third quarter, Oklahoma was getting stuff going on the ground. I mean, he had several runs of 10 yards or more, had several runs of 5 yards or more. So I was encouraged by the way things were looking with Oklahoma's ground game once Torrey Blaylock entered the game. I mean, he had 48 yards rushing on 8 carries. That's a really solid day for the true freshman in his first collegiate action. And fantastic. And then what he did on the swing pass was great too. So while I do have some slight concern about the offensive line, I need to see more. I need to see them prove it. I need to see Michael Fasusi in there at left tackle. I need to see Heath Ozita back rotating in with the ones at left guard. I need to see that depth showing up. I need Derek Simmons back at right tackle. I will say I was encouraged that they were able to make some things happen when Blaylock was in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, and Blaylock came in first quarter. He got in on the third possession. Him and Barnes had swapped out. So you got to see a good amount of him play, John, and that's the good thing. Good, man. He looked good. He was hitting the hole, and that was the one thing I think everybody was talking about in the social medias and stuff, and on the Discord, people were kind of really pointing this out. It was the vision. He was hitting the hole. He found it immediately and went straight forward. And so, like you said, 4 carries for what, 44 yards, 8 carries, 44 yards, 5 yards a carry, and he got his first touchdown at the collegiate level. He looked good. And I think he probably dislocated his shoulder a little bit, so it's probably going to sting for the rest of the week. But I anticipate him getting more run. There was a lot of people asking the question about Jaden Ott, why we didn't see Ott in this game. Well, Ott did hurt his shoulder as well in practice about 2 weeks ago. And so what they were doing basically, because one, we knew we were going to win this game. It was not a question whatsoever. They decided to reward Javonte Barnes and Torrey Blaylock because they were the only 2 running backs that were healthy going into most of camp. Xavier Robinson dealt with some things. I think he dealt with some hamstring stuff. Taylor Tatum dealt with a couple of injuries. And then Jaden Ott hurt his shoulder after the first week of practice. And so they were like, yeah, it doesn't make sense to actually put him in if you don't have to. Mainly because they had him as a kick returner, and the anticipation was there shouldn't be no more than 1 to 2 kicks made by Illinois State. They only got to kick it a second time because John Mateer threw that interception in the red zone, in the opposing red zone, and they didn't go nowhere, so they kicked the field goal. Besides that, 2 kicks, that was kind of the anticipate. I only think they anticipated more than 1, so that's why you didn't see Ott. It made sense for him to really not play, John, and I was okay with it. They put him in late, and I guess it kind of made people happy, but I felt like it was a waste. Why? No reason to.
It was a little bit of a waste. I would have liked to see him earlier in the game because when he did get into the game, I think he was a little bit antsy.
Yeah. He
3-yard
was ready to grab
loss
and go.
wasn't great. The one pass play where he was the dump off option, he was split out way further, I think, than John Mateer had expected him to be. And yeah, I'm going to reserve judgment on the Jaden Ott situation until we see what happens next week. If next week they still have him not running out with the first team offense, then I'll be a little bit concerned about either his shoulder situation or with really where he stands on the depth chart, because with Javonte Barnes struggling a little bit, then Torrey Blaylock going down, you ran out of options pretty quick. Now, Xavier Robinson ran the ball really well. We'll continue to discuss him and the Sooners offense coming up next. We'll also continue to talk about John Mateer, because we've kind of rabbit trailed away from our Mateer discussion and then talked about the run game. But we got to throw a little bit more flowers on Mateer, who had a career day. He set a career high, had a career day for a Oklahoma quarterback making his debut for the Sooners, and 4 total touchdowns. We'll talk more about all that coming up next here on a Locked On Sooners live post-game show edition.
The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with can't miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5. And if you win your bet, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Sorry if you actually took the Oklahoma spread, because you definitely did not hit that. But if you took Illinois State, you definitely won that. So I love everything, though, about the way FanDuel is set up. Is very easy to work with. I can jump in, make a quick bet, and boom, be off to the races. They do a really good job of making it easy to find stuff. Like, you can see the live betting and everything. And if you're in an area that doesn't bet, you can actually just keep, follow along with the numbers and everything from there. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, or part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Jay, tell me more about what you thought of John Mateer's performance in this game.
Oh, John Mateer gave y'all the numbers that y'all was looking for. He finished this game with what? That's 392 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. The unfortunate interception. That was felt like it was a little greedy at the same time as trying to help out his receiver, but 3 touchdowns, and he ran 7 times for 24 yards and a touchdown. I think the only thing that, if I was to nitpick how Mateer played in this game, he didn't really tuck and run much. Like, he didn't tuck and run early enough. You could tell that he was following progressions. He was enjoying that his pocket was going to be there for a bit, in which, if you go watch the tape, he was sitting in the pocket for a bit before he would throw it or run it. So he had plenty of time, and I think that was the only thing that got me, was that he didn't grab it and just, do the thing that he does best, which is just run a lot. But at the same time, I'm very happy that he was able to sit there, go through his progressions, and he did a great job. Keontez Lewis, John, 9 catches for 119 yards. I think we got one of our top receivers there. Jared Canick, 5 catches for 90 yards. Deion Burke, 7 catches for 88 yards. So to me, that's your top 3 for today. And then Isaiah Satania will probably mix in there with the rest of them.
Yeah, it was a really strong passing performance. He had 9 different pass catchers catch a pass. And I think going a little bit back to the offensive line performance, seeing John Mateer being able to stand back in the pocket, be patient, it did show that, hey, the pass protection was pretty good.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Because he's not able to stand back there if the pass protection is what we saw last year. So at least, if anything, you've got a quarterback that's comfortable in the pocket, comfortable to sit back and let things develop, and then he's comfortable enough to sling it. And some of those passes were to wide open receivers, but some of those were 50-50 balls that he trusted his wide receiver to go make a play. Deion Burks' one-handed catch in the first quarter. That was a phenomenal catch in a very tight window. That was a beautiful throw from John Mateer. Just put it right over the defensive back, and Burks, with a guy draped all over him, came down with a fantastic catch. The Keontez Lewis had a nice 50-50 back shoulder fade reception in the second half sometime. But it showed that, hey, you can't always rely on wide receivers or tight ends to get open. You've got to trust their ability to make a play when they're covered. And that's the thing I enjoyed seeing the most out of John Mateer is, yeah, he was going to hit the guys when they're open. But there are times that he's like, listen, Deion Burks has got one-on-one coverage. Keontez has got one-on-one coverage. I'm just going to throw the ball to him, and I'm going to expect them to go make a football play. And they did. Yep. And that's the encouraging thing, because what we saw out of Jackson Arnold last year, all the tools in the toolbox,
box, Pepsi,
toolbox.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
I mean,
somebody's
like guys
book.
like me who aren't handy with the tools all the time, I might need a tool book. But Jackson Arnold wouldn't always throw it because he didn't believe the guys could go make a play, or he just wanted somebody to be open. Well, Mateer showed the competitive drive to just put the ball out there and go make a play. Sometimes it's going to backfire. You're going to throw an interception. You're going to have an incompletion. But as we saw, these guys are able to make those competitive plays.
Yeah, you got all of that. You got to see them compete. And so I got bored, John, and I think it was the Parker Thune, or maybe it was Jesse. I can't remember who it was. I reposted it on X, Twitter, or whatnot, so you can go see who the specific person was. But they talked about how John Mateer broke Baker Mayfield's record for passing yards in a debut. So, of course, I had to go back and see what was going on. Well, we looked at the numbers, John. It was September 5th, 2015. Baker Mayfield played against Akron at the Crib. And in that game, Baker Mayfield threw for 388 yards, 3 touchdowns. He didn't throw a pick, but Trevor Knight did come in and throw an interception, which, we won't talk about that part. But this is the thing that got to me. The running game, awful. Samaje Perine, 11 carries for 33 yards. Joe Mixon, 5 carries for 27 yards. Baker Mayfield, 6 carries for 8 yards. Daniel Brooks, 4 carries for 11 yards. And Alex Ross, 3 carries for 20 yards. We were pretty bad in the run game in that game as well as this one. So I looked at it, I was like, that was stinky. That was a stinky one. But it was the opening game of that season. So, we finished that year with 11-2. So it wasn't a bad season, but that was a very, very, very bad start. While at the same time, again, as mentioned in the comment section, it was very much a vanilla game. We don't want to put too much on the tape for Michigan, as Michigan right now is in a borderline dogfight with New Mexico. That season, guess what the next game was?
Ohio State.
Nope. No. We traveled to Tennessee. And that was the overtime win that Baker Mayfield had. So I say that because we want to get, that was actually a pretty solid Tennessee team. Mm-hmm. They were 23 in the country, and they finished ranked that year. That was the Josh Dobbs commanded team. But we went on the road, won the game in overtime. And so I say that to say it was a night game on ESPN that we'll be fine going forward. Michigan's going to be tough. They're going to bring a challenge. They're now having to put a little bit more out there because they got to make sure they can separate themselves from New Mexico. But hey, guess what? That's what you want. You want those challenges, because I think a challenge and a battle with Michigan is going to do wonders for us as we prepare, because we'll get another week of a cupcake opponent. Then we'll have Auburn coming to the Crib.
Yeah. So all in all, I mean, the offense didn't do everything it wanted to do. It didn't have the great ground performance that you'd expect, but offensively, they put up enough yards. They scored 35 points. I expected them to score 63. So a little bit of a letdown, in my opinion. I expected to see a lot of the second team offense, guys like Michael Hawkins Jr., Zion Kearney, getting to see Elijah Thomas. I wanted to see some of that. Unfortunate that we didn't. And you still got to see the passing offense show out a little bit. And again, they're not showing everything this week. Did they show some things? I bet they did. But they're not showing everything. They're not putting everything they can on tape ahead of a Michigan team that's going to be tough defensively. So all in all, offensively, they did enough. And it doesn't matter how you win necessarily. When it comes down to it, you won. You got a big 32-point win. It wasn't like it was, 35-33 or like it was 17-3. It was still a 32-point performance, considering you didn't score on either of your first 2 drives. And I think you would have scored had you not fumbled on the second drive. And then you were kind of slow out of the gate coming out of halftime. I think that's an area maybe that we'll have to monitor to see how they perform next week against Michigan. Do they come out of the gate slow against Michigan? Do they come out of the gate slow in the second half? Is that going to be a trend? We'll follow that as we go. But all in all, offensively, they did exactly what they needed to do. Put some points on the board, put a bunch of yards on the board, showed off the chemistry that Mateer has with some of these wide receivers. and Jaren Kanak got comfortable in the passing game, and I think did pretty good in the run game from what I could tell. So I think all in all, pretty solid performance.
Yeah, me too. It was like I would love for them to score 60 or 70 points in this game and just throw a whole bunch of deep passes and just blow it out the water. But at the same time, we're also dealing with a quarterback who's working in game shape with a bunch of new people. They're just, getting to know each other. And to me, I didn't have any issue with, I like the fact that John Mateer did throw for over 300 yards in this game. First time we've had a quarterback throw for over 300 yards since Dylan Gabriel.
Well, and considering like how bad
actually Jackson Arnold threw for 300 in the Arizona game in the bowl.
Yeah, yeah. But considering how bad the passing offense was last year, like getting over 250, and he was at like 220 something, 230 around that in the first half. So yeah, John Mateer, strong performance, offense, solid performance. Not going to sit here and say it's 2017 Baker Mayfield, but it was a really good performance out of the gate for the Oklahoma Sooners. Let's talk about the deep.
Real quick, King Key point this out. Number 70 got to improve seriously. Yeah, true freshmen typically have problems their first time playing in a game. That was Ryan Fogier at guard, and it's okay. Yeah. It happens. That's why you play true freshmen in these games so they can learn from their mistakes.
Yep. Still on the Ryan Fogier hype train right here. So
heck yeah. About it. 100% long term.
We'll discuss the defense coming up next, and we'll have some final takeaways about this game coming up on Locked On Sooners. College football is back, and you all and myself and Jay, we couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. And that's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. You pull up the Gametime app with just a couple of taps, and you see amazing deals. And some of these football games you're talking about as low as $25. The app makes it super simple, and you can even see what your view is going to be looking at right inside the app. No surprise obstructions and no surprise weird angles. You can see it all inside the Gametime app. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Gametime today. Again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thanks for being a part of our live post-game edition of Locked On Sooners, recapping the 35-3 win of the Oklahoma Sooners over Illinois State. Let's talk about the defense. Jay, what did you see from the Oklahoma Sooners defense?
They gave up 150 yards of total offense, 51 to be exact, 34 passing yards on 10 completions, 1.7 yards per pass. What's that? That's what, 3.4 yards per completion. Yeah, that was good. They made them not want to pass. Defensive third down efficiency. They were 1 for 11 on third down. They only completed one at the beginning of the game, and then the defense locked down, which is exactly what we were hoping for. Now our offense got, some penalties at 6 for 35, but they got 2 penalties, 2 for 10, but our defense did a really good job of making Illinois State just give the ball right back. This is what you're supposed to do. And I know some people wanted the run game to be better. I think we gave up 117 rushing yards, which is 4.5 yards a carry on 26 carries. They weren't really stunning. They were just kind of shading to the side. And you could tell that there wasn't a bunch of they weren't exerting a lot of energy on the D-line. So I would have liked for them to be more aggressive there. But at the same time, I get it. They didn't need to. They were more so standing things up when the linebackers come in, make the tackle, and get them out the place. Get out of there as healthy as possible.
Yeah, it was a very simple approach. You saw a few kind of exotic things. I wouldn't even say exotic, but you saw a few blitzes, Peyton Bowen coming off the blind side and really hitting Rittenhouse pretty good, but you didn't see a ton again from this Oklahoma defense, and they didn't need to be. They didn't need to be showing everything that they have in their back pocket because they were going to be able to beat Illinois State on talent alone, and they did 35-3. Did they give up a few runs that you wouldn't like them to give up? Yeah, you'd like them to be cleaner on those things. And I'm sure Brent Venables is going to be talking to his guys about, I don't care that we were playing a vanilla defense. You've got to be better than that. You've got to be able to hold up at the point of attack better. You've got to be sitting in a better situation. But still, after they gave up those runs, they showed their resiliency and they showed that they can get off the field. The only time that they allowed points was when John Mateer gave them the ball inside the 25-yard line. And the Oklahoma defense, again, did what it does anytime their quarterback turns the ball over in their side of the 50, and they lock it down and they hold them to 3-0. And they did just that. So, again, it was a solid performance. It doesn't tell us everything we need to know about this defense because, again, you can't read everything out of a game against Illinois State, but it was solid. They did what they needed to do. They got the stops when they needed to get the stops. They forced a ton of punts. They forced their starting quarterback out of the game on a physical hit by Taylor Wine, and then the backup had no chance. Aside from a first down run by a backup running back, they couldn't do anything offensively against Oklahoma's defense. It was just a few busts here and there, but otherwise solid performance, man.
Yeah, and then Taylor Wine takes out the starting quarterback. Rittenhouse is actually he was pretty solid last year for them. He actually had some solid numbers against even Iowa when they played them last year at the name of the stadium. I can't think top of my head. I just completely forgot it. But yes, when they went to the Children's Hospital, but they got that treatment there, and then Iowa was really tough. But Rittenhouse was out there cooking a little bit, but he couldn't go where. Only thing he could do was scramble. Like he was waiting until there was a hole for him to be able to get out of there. But he threw for 22 yards, and in the backup that they brought out, Pelin, who's a redshirt freshman, he threw for 12 yards. 1.7 yards was the average. Good Lord. They couldn't. Look, I put it this way. If there's one thing that I'm excited about is we're seeing Cortland Guillory out there on the island. So what they did is they put one of their veteran wide receivers on Cortland Guillory, and they started picking on Cortland. That was literally what the game plan was. Like, hey, they got a true freshman out there. It looks like we're going to go after that dude. They did get him on one pass interference. He got caught pulling the jersey. It happens. But then he went from that and did what? Breaking up passes. He got a pass breakup in there, and he was all up in the guts of that wide receiver. So he couldn't do anything. Yeah. Cortland Guillory was very impressive. Also, we had a sighting, John. I want you to get excited just like me. Gentry Williams tackled somebody.
Yep. I stood up out of my chair.
I lost my mind when he went back there in the backfield. He got that tackle for the loss. I was like, whoa, Gentry's back. Because we all know Gentry likes to hit people. That's his game. His game has always been I'm going to level somebody. And that's what he did. He went back there, got him a tackle for the loss. And I was like, okay, Gentry's back. Dropped a tear. Little thug tear fell out, had to be gangster with it. It couldn't be, it wasn't a regular cry. It was a thug one. It was one.
You were throwing up the 918.
Oh, yeah. Throwing up the set, man. I was excited. 918, baby. Tulsa, stand up. Booker T, stand up. He gave us something. I was excited about that part because I have been hoping we would get at least a very functional Gentry Williams back this season, and it feels like we may get a 100% version.
Yeah, I mean, they threw that wide receiver screen, and I was like, oh, Oklahoma usually defends these pretty well. It'll be fine. Oh, Gentry's going to take that for a loss, and he did it with force. It was pretty impressive. The other defensive back that we've talked a lot about on this show is Reggie Powers III, and he got himself a hit as well. Like they threw the dump off pass to the running back coming out of the backfield, and Reggie Powers saw it before it was happening and came up and stuck a dude. Like it was absolutely impressive. I also thought David Stone was really good in this game.
Oh my goodness.
Pressures. He looked really quick. He looked fast. He looked physical. Really encouraged by his performance.
I was very encouraged too. Yes, Stone was causing a lot of disruption. He was forcing the quarterbacks to move. That's how Taylor Wine got that one sack that he got. We ended the game with like 2 sacks. So I know people were disappointed. They were hoping we get like 10 sacks in this game. But you could tell that the Redbirds game plan was get rid of the ball as fast as possible. Do not let Oklahoma have too much time. If you can't throw it, run immediately. And that's what you could see that they did. Is like he would sit there for a second. The next thing you know, booking it. And it makes sense. That's kind of the game plan you want to do against this defense. You want to get rid of the ball as fast as possible. So when we play Michigan, that's going to be the most interesting thing is Michigan's offensive line, of course, Sharon Moore is very good at what he does. Like, very good. Yeah. The biggest thing that Michigan's going to do is really try to force their way and run the ball, similar to what they've done against everybody. They did against Ohio State and won that game, Alabama in the 2 bowl games they played them. They're going to push really, really hard. If Oklahoma is prepared for that and they're able to anchor down and force them to make Underwood be their leader, I think our secondary will be good enough to cause problems. And we'll break that down a little bit later. But the way that they played, that impressed me. Linebackers were good, John. I was satisfied. I would have liked to see more stuffing in the lanes from our secondary, but we did not get that.
Yeah, I thought Kobe McKenzie played with a fire. Like he was physical. He was fast into the hole when he was called to blitz. I mean, he cracked a running back hard whenever he blitzed. I thought that, Sammy was playing well, showing that athleticism, showing that speed. Kip looked good. Owen Heineke was getting a lot of run out there.
Oh, yeah. Good. He was pretty good, too.
Some good, some, where Brent Venables looked like he was not too pleased with what they were doing out there. But again, this is one of those performances that is going to have a lot of good, but also some that you got to go back to the tape and say, hey, we got to be better in these situations. Got to be better on this fit. Got to be better with this leverage. But overall, I thought the linebackers were pretty good. You mentioned Cortland. I think the reason that they didn't throw for a lot of yards is because Cortland and Gentry just locked it down and there was nowhere to go with the football. When there's not a lot of targets going to the outside, it's because your cornerbacks are shutting them down and they're not giving them anywhere to run or anywhere to throw to. So a solid performance again by the defense.
Yeah, we were very comfortable with them going on an island.
Yeah.
That's something that's hard. It's how often can we say that we're comfortable with our guys being on an island by themselves and just say, oh, no, just go ahead. Just play defense. No, it's not that common. And we definitely did that. It was this is your man. You stay with your dude. Watch out for him watch him go inside. Watch out for him going outside, all of that. And I was very happy with the fact that we looked like we were prepared to stop any type of passes that would have made sense. A lot of their throws, and plus, this is where the pass rush comes in, John. I think this is where we should probably give them props too. A lot of passes were underthrown or widely overthrown or knocked down because we saw a knockdown from R. Mason Thomas on one of his stunts. We did a good job of making it really hard for them to get passes out to where they wanted to get them out. So the quarterback struggled. They had to run the ball, and it was one of those. If there was anything we said, you could tell that they did not want to do in this game. They didn't want to give up any big passes. They wanted to make sure that any passes that were given up were going to be underneath or swing passes, anything close to the line of scrimmage or behind, and make them continue to just go backwards. Plus, if I'm being honest, it's kind of a weird thing to say for y'all. I mean, a lot of y'all probably ain't gonna like to hear this, but if you make them run more, the clock runs out faster. You just got to stop them from getting first downs, which we did. 1 for 11 on that. I think in total they had 8 first downs. We had 24. So you basically were okay with them getting a little bit there and burning some clock, but you wanted them to get rid of the ball. Because for us, I know people would have liked us to dominate more in the run game, but then you know what the complaint would have been? Well, I didn't see John Mateer do anything.
Yeah.
I kind of liked watching John Mateer throw the ball, personally.
It was a lot of fun watching John Mateer throw the ball. It was a game where we were all excited to see what Mateer had. We were excited to see what Keontae Lewis could do. We were excited to see Deion Burks back. We wanted to see what Jaren Kanak was going to be about, and we got to see all those things. Yeah. We didn't even talk about Isaiah Satania as a punt returner. My goodness. This dude,
fun.
He wants to return it every single time it's coming his way. He's not looking to fair catch. Like the fair catch is like the very last thing on his mind.
Dang it.
Yes. Fine. I'll do it, I guess. No, but no, that was a lot of fun to watch. And, yes, the Danny Okoye, blocking the back, quasi blocking the back, wiped out a big return. But yeah, Isaiah Satania is going to break one this year, and it's going to be electric when it happens.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be long term. I think we're fine. I'm ready to see what we look like. Like there wasn't any big red flags in this game like it was last year. Like a third down efficiency, we were we were pretty mid. I think we were like 4 for 10, 2 for 3 on fourth down. But then John Mateer was 30 for 37, 392 yards. So he was getting explosive plays to bounce off of that. Well, we didn't get that against Temple last year,
true.
mind you. We scored 50 points, and it was all because the defense did most of the work.
Right.
This game, it was hey, yeah, and to Alex's point here, it kind of felt like the defensive line was told to, hey, just hold them up, and that's it. You really don't need to do a lot. Let's not do too much, because if you do too much, put too much on tape, blah, blah, blah. It felt like they were just like, just hold them up, slide them to the side, get in some holes, cause some problems, get some practice for the linebackers who now need to take over and be the next versions of Danny Stutzman and all of them.
Let's go through a few comments here because we've got a lot of really good ones here tonight. Here's what Jay Turner has to say. It was good to have our boys back in action. Oh, so good. I was so excited for this game, man. I woke up and the first thing I saw was the scene setter.
Yes.
And I was like, it's Providence, man. Football's back. He said, felt a little underwhelmed by the offense, but no doubt they'll fix it. The defense was sensational as usual. Third down was cause for concern. Yeah, it seemed at times they were comfortable playing for a fourth down. They were throwing the ball short of the sticks on a couple of occasions. I know one time Xavier Robinson just kind of lost his footing. Otherwise he probably picks up the third down. That was right before that last fourth down attempt where John Mateer probably could have ran for the first down himself, but had a little bit of a heat check, had a little Kobe moment where he was just going for all of it. And, just not a great throw to Jaren Kanak. But overall, listen, I think it was a solid performance. I'd give it a B+. I'm not going to sit here and say it was an A for anybody at any unit, but I think it was a solid, good performance for this team.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Like, I get the concern on the third down. We were 4 for 10, so 40%. Last year, roughly around average in college football was around 40%. I think that it was, we should be better at that. Totally agree. But it wasn't 3 for 12.
Right.
Which is where I was like, they
were bad on third down.
It was really bad. Actually, we were 1 for 12. My apologies.
Yeah.
We were what Illinois State was.
Right.
I think the next game we were like 3 for 12. So there was a lot of red flags in that component of it. But when you look at the numbers here, John Mateer still put up absurd numbers.
I can't wait to see how many pass plays of 20+ yards they had. And it might be like
more than we had all last season.
Yeah. I'm really thinking it's probably going to be.
Yeah, I think it was more than we had last season.
And it wasn't like a lot of bombs, like 70-yard pass plays or whatever, but it was like a 25-yard pass play, a 21, a 20, like just getting stuff open over the middle and connecting and then making a little bit happen after the catch. And that was encouraging because you got to get those chunk plays to get you into scoring territory, and then you got to be able to finish a drive. But that was encouraging, man, is seeing them be able to get those chunk plays. Larry Baxley says, I guess we know why there was no quote unquote, with Kanak on the depth chart. None. They were good. He earned it. And I can see why, man. He looked really good out there.
He did. I was happy with Kanak, even with the fumble. I was still happy with how because his stock dropped immediately with the fumble. You're like, come on, man, 21-yard play, and then you fumble it. But then he redeemed himself right afterwards and did what? Was run up the field, breaking tackles like a bowling ball. He's like, okay, I see how tough you are. But when I saw Kent go out there and Huggins, I was like, Jesus, they are huge human beings. I did not realize they were that big of humans.
Yeah.
So, wasn't too bad to see. But, I can definitely see why there was no war.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how Kanak holds up at the point of attack in the run game against a team like Michigan, because that's going to be a very different test. Yep. King Key says, disappointed, I'm guessing, in Barnes. He doesn't need to touch the football the rest of the year, man. Yeah, Javonte Barnes he just doesn't seem to have the same sense of urgency that you'd like to see. But I don't know, the offensive line wasn't providing him a lot of running lanes either.
Yeah, I don't know if it was it's the vision.
Yeah,
Blaylock found him.
This is true. Cowboy Cool says defense and offense on pace to be 10 times better than last year. Well, I don't know if the defense will be 10 times better because it was really good last year. I think it has a chance to be better, but I do think the offense is going to be 10 times better than last year.
Let me see. Temple game, our defense, and this was because of turnovers, We gave up 100 yards passing and 128 yards passing and 69 yards rushing. So we gave up 197 yards in that first game.
Now, Temple is an FBS team. Temple is an FBS team versus.
I mean, I get that.
Could Illinois State beat Temple? Possibly.
I think so. I actually think so this year. This year, I do think they could. I think they could upset them, like no lie. And it's not even just trying to. No, I think that because Illinois State's way more veteran. Temple has also fired their coach, new coaching staff, and a whole bunch of new transfers. They're going to be a little weird. I mean, Maine got 251 yards on us last year.
Yeah,
in their FCS.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to say Daron said we need the O-line to really step up and get our run game going to be a playoff contender. I totally agree with that.
I don't disagree with that.
I think
there's nothing wrong to say that either. Yeah.
Yeah. I think again, with Torrey Blaylock in the game, and then even Xavier Robinson, I felt like was finding a little bit there when he was getting some opportunities in the second half. But yeah, the offensive line has to improve. It's got to be better. And when you get all your guys, and we said this a lot last year, when you get all your guys, it should be better. But here's really hoping that, listen, Michael Fasusi is able to get out there at left tackle, or that Jacob Sexton is back healthy and solidifies that. Because I think you're better with one of those two guys at left tackle than you are with a Luke Buklenko. I
agree. And it's more so because those guys are new. They didn't come into the spring portal. So it's kind of like how Waywu was for us last year. He came at the basically, spring, and you had to got to break them in. It usually takes about a year with Bill Beatonbow for players to really blossom. And Waywu finished the whole year as our number one dude. He's the dude that played the entire season. He played every single game. And I think he's going to do it again this year. And I think he's going to be even better. He's going to be, that's why there was no or next to him on the depth chart, unlike everybody else, because that dude has got that spot anchored. That is his position.
Yeah. Jazz Kennerson asks, can we break 500 this year? Tough schedule. Yeah. Yes.
I don't think the schedule's that tough.
This team is better than last year's team. That'll be a question we'll have to ask, because we'll have to look into, because you might feel a little bit differently about some of these SEC teams after week one than maybe what we felt going into the season.
Time to break down the schedule again.
Looking at you, Tennessee.
Look at Ole Miss. Didn't Simmons throw 2 interceptions so far?
And looking at you, Texas, as well. But no, I think they can go 500. I think they can go better than 500. I'm still feeling good about a 10-2 prediction that I've made. It's just, they got to get some things figured out.
The score right now is 27-17, Michigan over New Mexico in the third quarter. New Mexico scored 17 points so far.
Can New Mexico pull off the magic? Are they wearing their turquoise?
New Mexico?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
I'm sorry. I'm a New Mexico bandwagon fan now because of that turquoise.
Oh, those jerseys. Yeah.
Jersey that they came out with, man, those were something special, man. I might have to go find me a New Mexico Lobos jersey because of that. Ethan Jarvis says, excited in the true freshman number 6, Torrey Blaylock. Absolutely. I think the run stuff was really exciting, but also seeing him catch that swing pass and then take it 16 yards to pick up a 3rd and 14, like that was big time.
Oh, yeah. That was huge. Torrey Blaylock's going to be fun to watch. We talked about him on the show numerous times. That's one of the true freshmen that we were keeping our eyes on. He is definitely going to be fun to watch.
And then Squeal Joe says, John Mateer looked like that guy, but that O-line,
Fair, and look, don't take me nitpicking what you all say about the offensive line as if I don't agree with you all. I do think the offensive line does have to get better. I'm just pointing out that we are missing 4 guys and 3 of them most likely will play a lot, especially left tackle. You lose Sexton and Fasusi, right? So you throw Buklenko out there to try to figure things out. You're playing a true freshman in Fogier because Fasusi did not play in this game at all. They went ahead and sat him after the heat scare that he had last 2 weeks ago. There's just no reason to really throw him out there. Let him take care of himself. But the biggest thing is, you're playing a bunch of the new players compared to the players that you have been practicing with through most of camp. And that's okay. I think that the cohesion will come back once you have, I think Simmons is expected so far to play against Michigan. I don't know about Ozeta, so you may end up still having EPL, who did pretty good at left guard. I can't wait to see the PFF grades for him tomorrow whenever I dig deep into those numbers. Troy Everett is going to be your starter with Michaela looked pretty good when he came in the second time. Because the second time when Michael came in, that was the Keontae Lewis touchdown in the back of the end zone when the corner fell. Like, it was like John Mateer had all day to sit there. Actually, both of those touchdowns, now I think about it, Michael was in for both of those. So he basically just sat there and just, chilled out, brushed his teeth, got on the grill, flipped a couple burgers, and was like, oh, there he is, and waited for him to go across and launched it. It was great. That was what you want. I think it was early is where we saw most of the running, the offensive line struggles, and that was because you had the kind of the makeshift one. But when you put in the second units with each other, they started to look a lot better in comparison to like a mix of ones and twos.
Christopher Satterfield, says offense did way better than what the score was. 500 plus yards of offense, way better yards per game, or I guess in yards per play and points than last year. Yeah, something like that. Lots of yards were put on the board. I don't think, they didn't kick a field goal. They didn't. Anytime
495 is what we finished.
Yeah, anytime it's basically 500 yards. Yeah. Anytime that they got into Illinois State's side of the 50, they scored.
Yep.
So you get into the green zone, the 30 yards in, the 40 yards in, and you're scoring points. Like that's all you can ask for. Now they need to be a little bit cleaner, maybe a little bit more aggressive on third down, earlier in the game. But again, just sometimes it's chess and you're just kind of feeling teams out to see what you're going to be able to get away with. And they sucked everybody in with some of those shorter passes, and then they started hitting the deep intermediate or the intermediate stuff. And just John Mateer was cooking in the intermediate stuff.
He really was. And we did a good job of really, like I said, taking our time and just kind of just going with the game, not trying to force a lot, letting Mateer get into a groove. I bet you next game, Michigan, Temple are going to be two fun games to watch John Mateer. I think he's going to be in a way different groove, especially because I think Keontez Lewis is his dude. I think that's his dude. Same thing with Burks. I think it's going to be Burks and Lewis are going to be the two dudes that he's going to be living and feeding nonstop. And then when Zion Kearney, who was also out because of injury, when he's back, he's going to be on it.
Yeah, Joe Knight says Lewis looked like a veteran receiver, and absolutely did. And that's why you go get a guy from the FCS level that's got a big season to his resume, because you're like, hey, that guy's produced. We can count on him to go and make some plays and make some catches. So, yeah, absolutely, Joe. You're absolutely right there.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait to see the Michigan game. That's going to be fun.
It is. Collins McDaniel says, good win, Sooners, on to the next. And I really think that's what you need to take from this is like, was it perfect? No. Was it everything you wanted it to be? It wasn't everything I wanted it to be, but they got that W. They didn't have to sweat about it. It was not at all in doubt. That to me is a dominant performance, whether it's by 50 or by 33 or 32. The fact that you were in control and you never let the other team think that they had a chance, that's a dominant performance.
Yeah. The defense did everything we wanted them to do. They gave up 34 passing yards in a game where they were blowing the team out.
Yeah, a couple things here. Chuck Kearney says, Jay and John, I told you guys Alabama wasn't going to be all that. That was definitely a surprising outcome there from Florida State, Alabama.
I truly did not expect. I expected that game to be close. I knew Alabama wasn't covering the spread, but dang, Florida State Florida State's back, it feels like. And yeah, Chuck, don't worry, Chuck. On the live on Sunday night, I will tell you are right. I will open with saying that Chuck was right. Chuck told me this, and I didn't believe it. But you're right, Chuck. You are 100% right.
And then Becca has thoughts. She was saying, wasn't expecting to get rained on, but it was worth it. Yeah, I looked up at one point. I was like, wait, it's raining like really good there right now. And
I didn't know that it was going to rain. And truth be told, I think that's probably where a lot of this stuff slowed down because I think the first Keontez Lewis touchdown was it started pouring. And I was like, wait, is it raining really? I was like, oh, okay. They're going to slow this thing down.
Yeah, and when Jaren Kanak caught a big ball and had a big catch and run, he was doing it in the rain. So that's encouraging. Like he's not going to be unable to catch wet balls. So that's exciting. That
to me, that's a very good point, John. I think that's a very good point, and that's one that we should definitely pay attention to because you're right.
Not that we'll get rain every time that Oklahoma plays, but in the event that it does happen, I think you can feel comfortable with your tight end, your new starting tight end, catching some footballs. All right. Final takeaways before we get out of here on this Locked On Sooners live edition. Jay, I don't know. We haven't touched on the fact of two things happened in this game that I don't know if anybody in Sooner Nation was expecting. They didn't necessarily go fast all the time. They were methodical offensively.
It was a mix.
And then sometimes they'd go fast. And I loved that.
I like that there was heavy consideration as to when.
Yep.
Right? There's like, all right, turn up the tempo now. All right, let's go back. Let's go back to pacing it. All right, turn up the tempo here. Let's go back to pacing it. I think in some cases, though, you did notice that they went with the speeding things up right when it was a potential controversy, like a potential replay.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, after the Burks catch, 100% after the Burks catch, that was definitely the case. But also it was hey, we just made a big play. We've got momentum. We've got them reeling. Let's go fast. Let's keep them reeling. But then they pulled it back, especially when they got into the red zone. They slowed things down and they actually huddled, Jay. That was the second part of the thing that really surprised me. I cannot remember the last time I saw an Oklahoma team use the huddle as frequently as this team did.
That's true. Like it was a pace. It was, yes, we're going to pace it. And no, we're not going to pace it. We're going to pace it. No, we're not. It was, yeah, that was good. That was really good. I actually enjoyed that part. I was like,
did.
Wow,
like
yeah.
it makes sure that everybody's on the same page.
It is. It does.
And,
that's all that matters.
And there's no reason to not use it. It helps. You've got a quarterback that knows the offense, that can make sure everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing, especially when you get into the red zone. Absolutely love that. Any final takeaways for you, Jay?
No, I think that John Mateer gave us exactly what we hoped for in his debut. He gave you a Baker Mayfield Estique type game, a Jalen Hurts type first game to make everybody feel good about themselves. And now on to the next one.
Yep. And that next one's going to be a tough one. The Michigan Wolverines are going to be a tough team. Don't let that game against New Mexico get you thinking otherwise. This is going to be a tough team, ready to start a slobber knocker, to steal a phrase from good old Jim Ross. But no, I think it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a big primetime matchup. You're going to get ESPN College Game Day in Norman, which is going to help set the stage for the entire day and going to make it a much, much better day than what it was going to be. But I'm excited about this team. I think they put a lot of good things on tape today, got some things to work on. We'll see them do that. But thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Go follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, on YouTube for more Oklahoma Sooners and college football coverage. You can follow me at John9Williams and read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms, and we'll be back for our regularly scheduled Monday episode, continuing to break down the Oklahoma Sooners 35-3 win over Illinois State. And we'll begin to get you ready for next Saturday night's game against Michigan. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer.
Sooner.
Good dub. Good, solid dub.
Great dub.